Hey, what is up, SVSers? And a special thank you and welcome to the Youthman community as well. He was nice enough to let us broadcast the SVS Audiophile Happy Hour to his YouTube community, and I know they are a lively bunch, so we look forward to the comments and questions from you. For those who might be joining for the first time, this is the SVS Audiophile Happy Hour. We do not have the boss man here, Gary, so you get the B+ team, or maybe the A team, depending on your perspective.
A-.
But here with me, to my right,
will play, right?
Absolutely. I have our national training manager. He is the Larry Magoo. Larry, how is it going this evening?
It is great, sir. It's good to be with you out here in Tampa.
And we have our resident technology expert, director of technology, Ed Mullen, who forgot more about subwoofers than I will ever know. Ed, how are you?
I'm doing grandiose. Larry, I noticed your beard's coming in. It's not Movember, so what's going on with that?
It's just too lazy to shave and want to see what I want to bring in as much gray as possible.
Oh, well, I got you beat there, buddy boy.
Yep.
So we're going to mix things up a little bit. We will go through our giveaways. We will do 4 giveaways tonight. All you have to do is leave a comment or a question to be eligible. We have our colleague Vince working behind the scenes, picking people at random. I will call out your name. We'll do our best to get in touch with you. If not, just drop us an email, and we will ship those products out within the next couple of days. And we'll go through those prizes in a minute. But we have the busiest man here at the show. You may have noticed we're at a remote location, and I'm happy to be leaving Rhode Island behind for the sunny skies of Tampa. We are at the Florida Audio Expo here in room 603.
You got it.
Woo! And we'll be doing demos and hanging out all weekend, so we'll get into some of that fun. But before we start our normal recommendations for listening and giveaways, I did want to bring on the organizer for the show, Mr. Bart Andeer. He is the collective spirit behind why this whole show is even existing. And so, Bart, welcome to the SVS Audiophile Happy Hour.
Oh my God, thanks. It's just an honor to be here.
And I've seen him running all around this place. It takes a lot to put on a show like this, as you can imagine, with the various aspects of the hotel. But I did want to just get a little bit of a history lesson. You know, what got you into the audiophile world and what sort of brought this show to be?
Well, like probably a few people out there, I thought I was going to be a rock and roll star, and I had a nice Hammond M3, and I couldn't be bothered to practice. But there was a love of music. My brother-in-law was a famous DJ in New York City, and so I was trained to run board at WOR-FM a million years ago. And so anyway, that was great. Then I was in the military, and we all had nice stereos and all of that. And I kind of got away from it as I pursued a career. I became a ship captain, worked my way up, and then consulting and everything. And then 2008, if you remember, the whole world economy was going crazy. I'd go into my study and turn on the news in the morning and watch it all day long. And after months of that, I was just a lunatic. I picked up a gig on a ship for a month consulting, and 3 days on the ship, just listening to my headphones, I was back to my old self. Music is just so important, and it's so therapeutic, and it's just fun, and just get away from the nonsense. And then I decided to upgrade my home system, and then I joined an audiophile society, which I can't recommend enough. I met some amazing friends that I've made through that, and you know, we don't all agree. How about that? You know, you get 3 audiophiles in a room and you're going to get 4 opinions.
That's what makes
but most of them are valid. So it's fun. It's just so I really recommend that. The industry is amazing. The people are amazing.
And, you know, I know these live events, they're in our DNA. We love to do events with dealers. We try to go as many of these regional shows. But I'm curious, from somebody who has to actually be involved with organizing, why do you feel they're important to our industry and sort of just growing this hobby?
If you can't go to the average store and hear many things. I mean, dealers are important. I'm not criticizing them. They can't have this kind of info. We've got 77 exhibits going. And what is the best system for you? It's up to you. We all hear differently. We all have different tastes. We all have different budgets. You can go from room to room to room here, hear stuff in your budget, or maybe making you stretch a little bit here and there. But there are some amazing products that are not that expensive. And okay, so most of you guys are never going to own a Bentley or a Ferrari, and I don't expect I will be either, unless the lottery comes and I have to buy a ticket for that. But it doesn't mean I don't like looking at them. And even if you can go back to The old Monopoly game came out during the Depression. People were broke, but it was an escape. It was something to do. So yeah, you say, well, why do I want to listen to a $500,000 or $1 million system? Well, you can here for next to nothing, $25, and bring the family. Where else are you going to do that?
Well, that's a great point. I think the sort of aspiration that people have to own, some of these amazing products, you can kind of get a taste for it, but then be like, you know what, I like my system at home too. And you don't necessarily have to spend that much, but it gives you the opportunity to at least experience it. But this show is not just demonstrations from brands like us. There's other elements of music here as well. What else you got going on here at the Expo?
Okay, so this evening is our industry mixer. We have USF School of Music playing part of the jazz.
Oh, that's closed. That's just for exhibitors.
That's for exhibitors. But tomorrow night and Saturday night, it's open and they're playing. So, we have live music, and some of the large rooms downstairs will be demoing. So you can, sit at the bar, have a drink, listen to the kids, and they are good. These are really good. The professor, Jack, is just an amazing man. We've had them from day one. So there's that. There's some interesting lectures. We got a couple of mastering engineers that are quite famous and deservedly so. So there's lectures, there's demos with the vinyl stuff. So there's just a lot going on, and the camaraderie. We try to have this be the funnest, most fun show. Mm-hmm. The funnest. That's good English.
Most fun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but I mean, it is. I mean, we're Florida. We're kickback. We're chill. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's business, but it's life and music and fun and passion.
Well, I love how you sort of straddled the sort of line between art and technology. Like I was looking at some of the seminars, they're very much like for people who want to get into the sort of technical side of how audio products work and sort of optimization. But then you have the jazz group here, which, is just some of the finest musicians here in the Tampa area. So, to have both of those cultural experiences, I think is just great. And I think if people are able to make it down, we are at the Embassy Suites here in Tampa. Where SVS is in room 603, but like you said, you got 70 plus exhibitors here. There's going to be a great sort of camaraderie. I think you said there was an audiophile group as well, right?
Yeah, we have the local audiophile society is just down the hall with a hospitality suite and a open restroom because it's a little crowded as things go. But it's great, and we liaise with different audiophile societies. So if you need to hook up with one in your area, we might be able to help you out.
So what does that involve? You just go there? Is there do you have to get hazed or something, or what is joining an audiophile society involve?
Oh, it's probably a lot worse than getting hazed. It'll hurt a lot more. No, actually, you just contact them. Like ours, because we're on Meetup, you're required to have a background check done on you.
Okay.
I mean, we go to everyone's homes. So we open up our homes to these people, and friendships long-term are just amazing. I joined probably 12 years ago, and I can say 3 of my best friends in the world are because of the club.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I have 3 partners of the show, and they're all members. We met through the Audiophile Society. AJ and I have both exhibited ourselves many times in the past, so we knew both ends of what we were getting into. And but it's effort.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting, I think with audiophile culture, it's not always known as sort of a social thing, but when you have these societies and it's bringing people together, whether or not you agree that this amp is better than that one or this source is is inferior, like just that camaraderie that you're saying and bringing people together, both at live events, but then at people's homes too. It's not a solitary passion, and I look forward to talking to Youthman a little bit because I know he's big on getting younger and more diverse people into this hobby, and I think that's one of the great benefits of these shows. And I hope this becomes sort of like a family vibe. I hope we see some kids and
you will,
some dates, and
you're going to see a lot of families and younger families, and you'll see some probably toddlers. Sunday, some of the fathers bring their young ones to give the wife a day off.
Okay,
and it's just amazing. And 3 generations, you will see. I promise, 3 generations, and there's nothing more wonderful than that.
Well, we brought some of our Marvel content, so we'll have some good stuff for the kids. If you want to come to room 603, maybe some Ninja Turtles, right, Larry?
Maybe.
Probably. We'll probably be the only room playing Ninja Turtles. But Bart, it was great to meet you. Thank you for putting on an A-class
Thank you
show.
guys for coming. We really appreciate it. And
I know you got everyone.
You guys are welcome. We love to see you.
That's right. Embassy Suites all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Come on down, join us. You might be able to meet Bart taking the live music, taking one of the seminars. Enjoy the rest of the show. Thanks, Bart.
Thank you.
All right.
Insert cool transition as I make my way
there
back
you go.
That was very cinematic.
Very cinematic. Okay. Well, let's get back to our normal, announcements and rhythm. So again, I think you probably know we're remote here. We're at the Florida Audio Expo. We have 4 awesome giveaways tonight, and everyone who's commenting is already eligible. But Larry, let's run through what those giveaways are.
So first thing we're giving away will be here in just a few moments. That will be a pair of our Prime Wireless Pro powered bookshelf speakers. Then we've got an SB 1000 Pro subwoofer, followed up by a pair of our Prime bookshelf speakers. And then we're going to wrap up the night with a 3000 micro subwoofer that's also going to include a tri-band wireless audio adapter.
Very nice. A souped up 3000 micros.
Yes.
And before we get into what we've been into recently, Ed, you got something to say? It looks like you're chomping at the bit to say something there.
No, I was going to say, I got a 3000 micro right here to my left, and I just love it. It sits between my speakers, between my Prime Wireless Pros. It's a perfect sub for a PC-based audio system, and whoever wins that is one lucky person.
I got one right at my feet here. We're going to be energizing this room with our Prime Wireless gear. But that actually is a great segue, because why don't you, if people are in the Tampa area or feel like making the trip out here, talk a little bit about what we're demoing here in Tampa there, Larry.
We were already warned about our audio levels.
I know Bart seemed like a nice guy, but the first thing he said is like, you guys are going to keep it down, right? You got some isolation. So we did bust out the isolation feed. But,
So we've got, it's not a giant room, but we are showcasing a full-on 5.2.2 Dolby Atmos system with our Prime Pinnacle Towers, Ultra Center Channel, Prime bookshelves for surrounds, Prime elevations up on the side, and 2 SB 3000 subwoofers. And we're running it off of entry-level Denon receiver just to kind of showcase what you can do and not have to really break the bank. And then at this table that we're sitting at will also be a pair of Prime Wireless powered bookshelf speakers along with a 3000 micro subwoofer.
So we will have our 2-channel Prime Wireless Pro setup, and then, like Larry said, we are probably one of the few doing a multi-channel demo, and I would argue
I think we're
the only one doing Dolby Atmos, and I would also argue we may be the only one doing actual video home theater demos too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is still very much more of a 2-channel audiophile show, but we bring our own special flavor. What is the term we always say? We are the guilty pleasure.
Yeah, that's the term, the guilty pleasure.
We're the guilty pleasure, and the audiophiles come in and they're like, I didn't think I was going to enjoy this, and then they stay for half an hour. So what's better than that?
I do have a question. When the Audiophile Society dudes get together, go to each other's houses, do they just take turns sitting in that one seat?
In the
I think they all just sit on each other's laps.
Yeah,
and, they just
let's take
make
turns.
a stack of them.
Because most of us that are in those kind of communities, it's all 2 channels. So I really wanted to ask him about
so that. That would have been the perfect question to make him squirm a little bit.
Yeah, you guys just take turns.
What are you talking about? So, all right. Well, let's see here. This past week it did have Valentine's Day. So my content selections, I did get to watch 2. Well, one rom-com and then one rom-drom. And I wouldn't normally go this direction, but I guess this is my one chance because it was, again, Valentine's Day. So the first one I will say that I would not recommend was the new Ashton Kutcher movie. And I don't know what happened. He got like chiseled or something. He had some kind of surgery. He just looks like chiseled now. But Your Place or Mine, don't recommend it. It was just, I was expecting some sort of comedic value between him and Reese Witherspoon. It was just sort of meh. But what I do recommend is Jonah Hill, right? I got that right. Jonah Hill. And I can't remember the actress's name, but there's a movie called You People where, basically it's just this, awkward love story that evolves into, something special and funny. And what I loved about it is there was just these random like hip hop song drops, like right in the middle of the movie. Would just like they'd start bumping and my system would really come to life, but it was also cute and funny and so on. So if you're looking for a decent date night, I would say You People is the one to go to. A couple other ones I'm excited about: Shazam 2, David Sandberg, an SVS subwoofer owner.
Yes.
Not just because of
that.
Man,
I want to get him
great
on.
Movie. And then Ant-Man, which I think you might be seeing this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So these 2 dudes, we're with Dan too. Some of you guys haven't had a chance to meet Dan. He's one of the many people that make things run in Ohio, and he's here with us for this show too. And they're both ditching me Saturday night to go hang out with family for dinner and stuff. So I'm gonna go see Ant-Man Saturday night in Dolby Cinema up the street.
All right. Well, you got any other recommendations?
Yeah. So my wife and I took the opportunity over the weekend to get through season 2 of Umbrella Academy because we didn't start season 3 yet, so we did that.
Come on, you haven't watched that yet?
Yeah, I got to get into season 3, so we're about to jump into season 3 because the final season's coming.
So good.
Then I saw in the theaters the movie Missing, which a couple years ago, John Cho did a movie called Searching. And the entire movie is shot kind of like you're watching us now via web cameras, phone cameras, news reports, and stuff like that. So it's really interesting. But Missing was way better than it had any right to be. The movie Plane with Gerard Butler. I told my wife, I saw that last night while I was waiting on these guys to come in. And I told my wife I saw a movie with Gerard Butler. She's like, he's still acting? I was like, yeah. And it was kind of kick-ass. And then on the flight out here, I watched a documentary on Disney Plus on Tommy Morrison. If you guys have seen Rocky V, he was Tommy Gunn in Rocky V, so watch that. And
Tommy Morrison was an awesome boxer, and
it was a force.
I'm a fan of boxing, and he left us too soon. But I think everybody says Morrison in his prime, Tyson in his prime. Would have been an amazing fight. And
that would have been enjoyable. Yeah,
we never got an opportunity to see it.
No. What else did I watch? Oh, I finally watched Black Adam, which we may be demoing here. I know why that story is not continuing in the DC universe after watching.
Did it stink?
Oh, dude.
Really?
I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah,
I will say Todd Anderson, who runs a site called AV Nirvana, does this great segment called Bass Hunters, and he said it did something with his subwoofers that he's never experienced before. So I think that may be the only reason to watch it is to give your subwoofers a workout, because I have heard there is some great LFE in that movie, but I've also heard the story leaves a lot to be desired.
Maybe his subwoofers were wondering where the hell the story was too.
They just decided to just start working. All right, Ed, I want to hear your picks, but we're already past 15 minutes in, so let me do a giveaway of our award-winning SVS Prime Wireless Pro powered bookshelf speakers, and the winner is Chuck High. Chuck High.
Hi, Chuck.
That's H-I-G-H.
Yeah.
So Chuck High, got some powered speakers coming your way. Congrats on that. So Ed, you always have some good picks for us. What do you got?
Well, I first want to say, if you watch 2 rom-coms on Valentine's night, you're doing something wrong, Nick.
I only watched one of them. The other one, I also had to travel to Florida without her, so I was really
okay. All right, excuses. I watched recently The Wrath of Man with Jason Statham. It's a Guy Ritchie film. Highly recommended. I love Guy Ritchie as a director. The timelines.
Guy Ritchie earlier.
The timelines are disjointed in the movie, and you have to kind of put it all together as you're going. It's kind of like a day in the life of, and it shows the perspective of all the different actors and characters in there. So it was a cool movie. Really enjoyed it. And other than that, have not really noshed into a series or anything like that recently.
So this one I'm very excited about, the new Winnie the Pooh horror movie, which I think we teased on here, when we first heard about it.
I almost went last night. They're doing some special screening at the theater. But,
yeah. And then Brian, I'm sorry I turned you on to Young Gravy. I know I did get to meet him in person, but there's only so much you can. Well, I won't get into it, but it's a very repetitious. He's got a fun voice, but he talks a lot about doing stuff to my mom and making her make muffins and stuff.
He did have a Doritos commercial during the Super Bowl.
Was that really him?
Yeah, playing the triangle.
Who's drinking? What are you guys drinking?
He's bigger than I thought. Okay, well,
I'm just gonna say it's vodka
a little bit of larceny here. Okay, what do you got? Walcup, very good. Larry,
I'm gonna bust it out here.
I have a stupendous bottle of water.
You're letting us down,
all right,
dude.
Well, I think because we are indulging Michael Youthman's audience, we should bring him on now, because I did have some questions, and you may be able to meet the actual Michael Youthman in person at the Florida Audio Expo if you're coming down there. So without further ado, second-time guest joining us here from the lovely state of Florida.
Yeah.
He is Youthman. He is Michael. Welcome back to the broadcast. How are you, Michael?
What's happening, fellas? Doing great, man. Welcome to my state. You said it's the first time you've been to Florida at a show?
At a show, yeah. It's the first time SBS has even done an event in Florida. So, I mean, we're breaking all sorts of barriers.
I don't know what you're about to say, but
probably not the right thing. But yeah, no, we're super excited to be down here. I know that it seems like the audio culture is pretty strong here, and you would probably know better than anyone. But I do want to get your picks first, since we always like to find out, you've been listening, you've been watching, anything interesting you want to recommend to the communities here.
Oh, man. So here's the hard thing. Being a content creator, I spend way more time building content and making content than I do listening to content. So it's been a while since I've literally sat down and watched a full movie. My daughters and I and my wife have been watching Survivor, which is like, apparently there's 40 something seasons. So we've got a lot of catching up to do, but we've been having fun doing that, man.
You know, it's so funny. People like assume because you have this awesome home theater, you spend every waking second in there, like, you know, watching, you know, nonstop. And a lot of times it's just not the case. And I feel your pain on the content creation, but you do a great job. And I know you built a heck of a community. So, but, you know, you're coming out to this show, and there's another event I want to talk about down the road, but I do want to get your take, you know, like I asked Bart, why do you think these kind of events are important?
Yeah, I love going to physical shows. And man, when COVID hit, it just kind of put a stop on everything. And so we really missed out on that community and just kind of connecting with people one-on-one. It's one thing to do video chats like this, but it's a whole different experience when you get to meet face-to-face with people that are just as passionate about two-channel, about music, about movies, home theater, Dolby Atmos. And so coming together, that's the biggest part that I take away. I mean, I love the gear and I love the demos, and those are always awesome, but I love being able to interact and meet and greet just different people, especially having the channel, because people recognize you and they'll come up and say, hey man, and they'll just tell you how maybe a video has impacted them. Or I've got people, I'm actually watching both of the chats right now, and it is extremely hard.
Oh man, dude.
And your guys are blowing it up over here, man. It's so crazy. I don't know how you guys do it, but I've been watching my chat over here, and a lot of them say, man, I'm rocking SVS. I've got PB16s. And so it's really cool that we've got a lot of people, even on my channel, that love SVS and love what you stand for and own your products.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm sorry, I don't remember if I asked about this the last time, but one of my favorite things that you do is those home theater tours. And recently you did one with a Star Wars, and cut me off. Did I ask about this one? Oh, I did. Well, it's still insane. So if you haven't had a chance, check out the $1 million Star Wars theater that Michael toured.
I saw that making the rounds on like Instagram recently.
It's been everywhere, man. It's crazy. People shared it, LinkedIn. I mean, it's literally all over the place. That was the most incredibly detailed home theater I've ever seen, man. Because you walk down this hallway and he's got, like, as you're actually walking onto the Death Star ship, you know, you got lightsabers on the side. You've got all those racks of amplifiers and all the equipment in there, the Trenov processor. And then you walk up and you push this button, and the what do you call it? Blast door just go. I'm like, no stinking way. And the first thing you see when you walk in to the left is a 20-foot wide screen. It's 260 inches diagonal, 13 theater seats. Big, massive Sony GTZ 380 projector. It's like an $80,000 projector. I mean, this thing was tricked out.
Went small there.
Phenomenal. Oh my goodness, it was phenomenal. It's about 25 foot wide, I think 35 foot deep, with 16-foot ceilings. So this thing was massive. And so
was the owner like a complete Star Wars nerd, 100%. Or did he just want? Oh, okay,
no,
so
100%.
Yeah.
No, he's a Trekkie, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you just wanted like sort of the novelty of it.
No,
I guess you don't drop $1 million on it.
He's been following this series since its inception and owns every one of the discs on Kaleidoscape. And his son kind of gave him the idea. He's like, Dad, I think we ought to, you know, do a Star Wars thing. He's like, no, man, that'd be too difficult. And he said they went to Galaxy's Edge and they were going through it. Of course, they probably
I'm gonna bet that set everything off.
Yeah, they go there quite often, I'm sure. But they went through it one day and he was kind of looking around and going, and he's just, the wheels start turning. He comes back, he's like, I think we can do this.
He better have indoor and a whole like Ewok village in his backyard too.
Transform his whole house into indoor.
It was phenomenal, man. Super cool.
So you recently had a chance to test the Prime Wireless Pro sound base. And one of the things I found interesting is sort of the dynamic it created with your family. And I think it's been sort of an underlying theme with this broadcast, talking to Bart even. But just talk a little bit about that experience, because I'm interested to know what sort of manifested there.
Yeah. So the short version is we've lived in this home for 16 years. And in 16 years, we have not owned a TV in the living room. And so I just have a 2-channel setup. I do some reviews out there. And that's kind of family time. We've just never had a TV. The kids have TVs in their bedroom. And of course, if we want to watch movies or even a TV show, we go in the theater room. Well, just recently, probably a couple months ago, Hisense reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love for you to review one of our TVs. And so they sent me an 85-inch TV. And then about the same time, maybe not too long after that, you had sent me the Prime Wireless, the Soundbase Pro. So I connected it up. And this is really the first time I've had an opportunity to use like ARC, CEC, those types of things, because in the theater room, you don't have anything smart in the projector. There's no reason to there's no way to really get sound from the projector to the speakers. You know, it's kind of the other way around. And so having all the stuff that, you know, the smart TV offers, Netflix, Hulu, all that stuff. And I hooked up the Soundbase Pro and everything was super simple. Sounds great. It's enough to power my speakers.
What speakers are you running?
So I'm running clips. So I have the RF7 version 3s. And so
you got 28-inch woofers in those?
2 10s in each.
And so that they're, yes, high sensitivity, but they require
Correct.
a decent amount of power.
Well,
is Soundbase powerful enough for it?
Well, that's the thing. I've got a 200 watt by 2 Accurus amplifier. So really old amplifier, but it's a beast. I haven't actually hooked it up yet, you know, so I've still been rocking just the Soundbase Pro by itself for what, 3 months? So that says something there, you know, and I listen to plenty of music in there.
That's a gutsy, it's a gutsy amp.
It's actually really cool. I am curious to see, you know, what's great about it is I can hook up an external amplifier if you feel that you need more wattage from it. So that's really good. And especially if you don't have sensitive speakers or efficient speakers. So going back to the family thing, what's super, super great about this is that my wife, Jessica, and even the kids, they don't ever go into the theater room and watch anything unless dad's there and he sets it all up. Even though I've got a Harmony Elite, you hit one button that says watch movie, boom, everything turns on, all the inputs. And when you're done, you hit power and that turns everything off. But they just feel intimidated for some reason. The cool thing with the theater room, I've been on live streams and get off and Jessica's like, yeah, I watched a series of this, or I watched this movie. And so this is the first time in 16 years that my wife has ever like just taken ownership of the TV, and she's got good sound. I mean, we don't want to just use the speakers and the TV. So they've got good sound, makes it super easy with ARC and ARC. So it's just been a game changer for us. And so now we've actually found that because of having the TV and because of having the Soundbase Pro, we're actually spending a lot of time together as a family, like just watching some shows. So we've been watching Survivor, and so going through some of those series. So it's just been a blast, man. It's been super, super cool.
You mentioning that is cool. And, you know, I've been in this industry. I started at Best Buy in 97.
Yeah, I was at Circuit City.
Part of the allure of this is bringing people together. And I'll never forget, I was working at this store in Arlington where I live and sold this system to a guy who was a former NFL player. And he came in about 3 months later, and I just saw him. And he came over to me. I'm not a big guy, you know, I'm like 5'6" or whatever. Yeah. He gives me this big old huge bear hug, this 6'5", near 350-pound dude, and picks me up and thanked me for bringing his family back together. And it's something I will never forget, because we sold him a project, and this was, you know, a projector, TV, a receiver, speakers, and all that stuff. And picked me up and hugged me and said, man, I haven't seen my teenagers in, you know, months and years or whatever. And you helped me bring them back together. So it was really awesome. So you said that, just kind of made me think of that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's two sides of that too. There's the sort of, you know, bringing people together, but the technology, I mean, it has to be able to be something that not anyone can use, but like that there's simple enough. There's not such a learning curve that it's intimidating. And I think, you know, it kind of gets into the next question I was going to ask you. And that's like, what can our industry do better to just promote high performance audio to a younger and more diverse crowd? Like, how do we get more people interested into this?
Yeah. Well, the good thing is even just what I mentioned earlier, by making it simple and easy to use, and it's affordable. It's not crazy high end. Now we're going to the Florida Audio Expo tomorrow. There's going to be some crazy high end stuff there. And so a lot of guys look at that and they think, man, I'll never be able to get into 2-channel. I'll never be able to get into home theater. The cool thing is, like, I don't care what your budget is. I don't care what your room size is. or where you're trying to set this up, whether it's in a bedroom, a garage, a bonus room, living room, you can put together a pretty cool system. And what I love about you guys, when you do your home theater setups at trade shows, honestly, you don't even bring your big boys most of the time. You bring some stuff that people look at this and they're like, really, I can, for X amount of dollars, I could have this in my living room or this in my bedroom. That's just super cool. And so by making products that are affordable, easy to use, and sound great, I think that's what is going to help. And the other thing, of course, like all of my kids, we were over at my son's house last night, checking out the grandbaby and hanging out with him. And my father-in-law looked and he's like, oh, those are some nice speakers. I'm like, yeah, you know, Dad, I've been training my kids up since they were like 10 and 12 years old. Naomi has speakers. Rachel has speakers. Rebecca had them, but then she was like, she never listened to them. So I took them out and ended up selling them. But I've tried to raise my kids to appreciate good sound. And so I've always tried to, you know, give them an opportunity to hear that instead of just earbuds or just the TV speakers.
Yeah, that education part is important because, you know, a lot of people don't know there is something better than a sound bar, you know, the buds they're putting in their ears. They don't know what to listen for. And I know Ed does, you know, a lot of that, educating people on sort of, you know, what they should be listening for and how they know that they got it right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so to come here and to see like something like our Prime Wireless Pro speakers, it's an all-in-one system. You don't need to buy a bunch of other gear. It's very low intimidation. You get to use your smartphone, which everyone has anyways, to get all your content. You know, I think that's an important thing for events like this to showcase is that kind of technology, in addition to those astronomically priced things that I can aspire to own, but probably never will in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in a completely different direction. And Ed, I want to ask this question to you first, but I'm interested to know your answer too, Youthman. And I want to know what you think is the most overrated upgrade you can make to a home theater. What you know, what is something that people hype the heck out of, but really overrated?
You kind of stump me on that one.
Putting you on the spot there.
The most overrated.
I have one that'll make a lot of people angry.
Larry will start, and then
I got one. I would say probably.
I've got two.
An AV receiver, if yours does everything it's supposed to and handles all the latest video and audio codecs, like you said, you've got a, you know, sort of like a mid-grade Denon back there, and it's doing everything it needs to. So sometimes I think people get caught up in the gee whiz, you know, features and stuff of next year's receiver when last year's receiver does everything it needs to.
Yeah.
So I would say that's where I see a lot of our customers throwing money at new receivers when they really don't need to.
All right, I'll let you both answer, but we're overdue for a giveaway. Yeah. So let me do our next giveaway, which is our SB1000 Pro subwoofer compact powerhouse SB1000 Pro. And the winner of that is one Mr. Chris Masters. Chris Masters, congrats!
Congratulations!
Sub coming your way. So Larry, I know you're anxious to answer. What's your overrated?
So I'm probably going to catch some flack for this, but you know, one I saw people mentioning was the overpriced cables. That's one, but
sure.
I think a big one is overdoing it on your TV, because TVs you're not keeping very long. You know, speakers you're going to keep for a very long time. A receiver you could keep for a very long time, but TVs nowadays we just don't keep them very long, and they're not built the way they used to be. So going out and buying the most expensive television most of the time, because you're probably not going to use a lot of the features that TV has. You're going to be using your external devices for streaming and whatnot. If you get a TV that's got a phenomenal picture, you can tweak the heck out of it and make it amazing. But I personally don't see the point in buying the most expensive screens that are out there because, you know,
I mean, the only thing I would take umbrage with is I still have the original 1080p TV I bought like 15 years ago, and it looks fine. So I would even say that supports your argument on some level.
We have 3 plasmas in the house that are 13 years old, and they look amazing.
Somebody put cable risers in there.
Okay, that's a good one.
You don't believe in cable risers? Come on, you got to elevate those. They got to be made a unicorn.
Differentiate between snake oil and the stuff we normally purchase. So that none of this is snake oil. We could have, thrown a couple $1,000 at cables, and
plasma
make a
cable,
lick of difference. So,
All right, Michael, what do you have for your overrated upgrade?
So mentioning something that y'all haven't mentioned is probably amplifier. So I like having external power connected to an AVR or processor. But the reality is a lot of times an AVR, if it's a decent AVR, the real budget ones, they're going to struggle because they don't have a large power supply. But when you get into the mid tier and a little bit higher end, they often have enough juice to provide your system with reference volume, clean. An amplifier could help, but it's not, just don't go into it expecting it to be like night and day difference. But a lot of times people will kind of suggest that there is. I've owned a bunch of different amplifiers over the years, and I probably couldn't tell the difference between each one of them if I did some blind, A, B, C comparisons. But so I would say probably that. I mean, definitely the cables. I mean, there's some, I have a video on my channel a long time ago, and it was $70,000 cables. And I'm going, holy cow, for a pair of speaker cables. This is just speaker cables. I'm like, wow,
That's
man.
an electric truck, man.
That's a lot of money. But, hey, if you got the money and you got a cool system and you got the extra coin and you want to spend that, more power to you, But
well, you might disagree with this one, Micah, because you did drop Harmony earlier, but I think the universal remotes are like the sort of all-in-one. Like sometimes getting them set up and sort of that whole process, I'm not sure if it's worth it there, and they're not super expensive.
See, I'm gonna
Harmony's easy.
Totally argue with you on that.
Okay.
So, are you gonna walk into?
Because I don't have one. So
I'm waiting on someone to pick up the realm of Harmony because I don't understand them leaving the market.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I'm sure there, obviously there's financial things there, but there's nothing like it that any one of us can pick up, plug into your computer, tell it what you've got, plug it, tell it this is HDMI, whatever, and then your family can go pick it up.
Well, the great thing too is now this right here with the Harmony Hub, you do everything from your phone and it syncs it up. It's super easy.
I'm seeing a lot of Harmony as a marriage saver. Harmony is for the ladies.
I'm going to tell you, you're wrong.
All right. Yes. Well, I guess I'm speaking from ignorance, which is always a bad idea. So I guess I'll have to look into
I'll teach you how to do it.
Universal.
I mean, if my wife picked up a remote and it's got 30. I mean, this doesn't have it, but if it had like 30 different buttons, she has no idea what button to push. And typically,
that's part of. I mean, again, I'm speaking from ignorance, but I kind of like being the master and like only I know how to do that. So
we're gonna keep it clean.
It's all about control for Nick.
Yeah. But I do want my kids to go on and use it. And my youngest is 12. My middle child turns 14 tomorrow. So happy birthday!
Nice. Yeah.
And then they've all been able to use the system since they've been little because of the Harmony remote. So I think that's maybe the most important thing for a home theater is control.
All right,
so
well, we're all about discourse.
Ed, you and I, when we go to Nick's house, we're gonna get him set up with a remote.
It's going to be an uphill
sound treatments and
we'll get them there.
So I'll mention
we'll
this.
drag you kicking and screaming.
You mentioned that nobody's taken up the mantle. So I've reviewed a couple of different remotes and they didn't do so well. But there's one I'm really excited about. It's called the YIO Remote 2. So take a look at that. YIO Remote 2. I think right now it's the only remote on the market that's really coming to market. They haven't actually, sent them out yet. But it has the potential being able to replace Harmony, do more than what the Harmony can if you're like that customizable kind of person. You really want to tweak it, but then also you don't have to hire a calibrator or an integrator to set it up and manage it for you. So
is that will that be available on their website or Amazon, or where are they going to be available?
Yeah, if you just search for it, YIO Remote 2. They had a Kickstarter sometime last year, and they ran into a little bit of issues on, parts and stuff because of the pandemic. But I'm waiting to get a review unit to see if it lives up to what I think it can do. But if it works great, it looks awesome. So I think right now it's the only contender there. So yeah, the Sofa Baton. Craig mentioned Sofa Baton. It wasn't my favorite, that's for sure. And then I did another one that it was okay. It was called the Super or Best Joy Super Remote. I'm like, That's an interesting name.
I see Mike Smith saying his wife loves the 7 remotes on the end of his table.
Yeah, I bet he does.
Well, that was that answered one of the questions I was going to ask, which is what is some cool categories that you're interested in reviewing, or some new technology? And I think the remote world, it sounds like they could use a savior.
We're waiting on it. I've been asking, and basically just saying, hey, what's going to replace this? And a lot of people are starting to say, hey, look, I've just tried to connect something to my Harmony and it's not working. And how long are they going to maintain that? They say they're going to, but we don't know. So, but yeah, so I'm excited about it. Hopefully it'll work out well. And if they have their stuff together, man, it could be a game changer, and you'll see a lot of Harmonies on the market, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so too. So for anyone who may have tuned in partially into the broadcast, we're remote. We are at the Florida Audio Expo in Tampa. We are going remote. You get that? Oh, that was unintentional. So we'll be here all weekend demoing, and a great home theater and a 2-channel system. And this is not the only event happening this year. In fact, Michael, the Youthman, will be hosting his own event sometime in June, I believe, a weekend in June. Tell us what you got going on in M-Wave and what people can expect.
So we were super pumped. So last year we did an event I did a home theater tour. And at one of those home theater tours, I met a gentleman by the name of Ryan Charpentier, and he invited me to come back a few months later to do a projector comparison in his home. So he had about 20 or 30 guys over. It was phenomenal. And at the end of it, I said, Ryan, we should do this every year and just invite more people. And so we just started brainstorming, and in 6 months, we launched M-Wave, and we did that last year. So fast forward a year later, here we are launching it again. It'll actually be in July the 14th through the 16th. And so we moved it to the Kansas City Convention Center. And so last year we had it at the Lead Center, and that was really cool, but it was really more of a auditorium, like a large auditorium. And it really just wasn't conducive to being able to have a bunch of different demo rooms. Really, our desire is kind of what you were talking about earlier, is being able to have specific rooms that attendees can just get some really cool experiences. Like last year we had projector comparisons where we had 8 projectors. These were the brand new Sonys, the brand new JVCs, and the Epson LS12000. And we were able to put them side by side doing blind comparisons. So people didn't know what they were looking at, and they could just look and see. We'd play a demo and then we'd talk about it. Like, what do you see the differences here? And then we would share, okay, on the right, we were looking at this brand and this model. On the left, this brand and this model. We're not trying to declare any winners. We're not awarding any trophies. We just want to give people experience to see what they like, what they prefer. And, sometimes is the price difference, is it worth it to them? Because everybody's worth it is different, because we all have different budgets to work with. So we're doing that. We're going to do a tactile comparison, or a tactile experience is what I like to call it. So we want to give people the opportunity to feel what a near field subwoofer is, compare that to a butt kicker, tactile transducer, and then also like a Boss platform or a Hover Easy platform. So just a lot of cool things. We're going to do some speaker comparisons. For our VIPs, we've got access to 4 different home theaters in the area that they get a chance to tour on that. What would that be? That Thursday, I believe. So it's just
it's a little bit different than a show like this.
100%.
Then it's not your traditional 2-channel. Walk in the room, don't make any noise. Make sure you respect the $100,000 gear. It sounds like it's going to be very interactive, and give people the opportunity to learn quite a bit.
Yeah, we want them to really just walk away with experiences. But again, as I talked about it earlier in the show, I truly value friendships and I value relationships. And it was really cool. The very first night, I just challenged everybody. I said, meet some people this week. I know you're introverts. I'm an introvert, but let's meet some people. And by the end of that first night, I would look over and there were 5 people talking. I'd go over and talk to them. I say, are you guys together? They're like, no, we just met each other tonight. I'm like, that's what this is all about, man.
Yeah, that is great. What's the URL for the website?
So it's midwestavexperience.com.
and that will be in July. So you've got plenty of time to plan your trip out to Kansas City and make that a reality.
Great time to go there too.
It really is. So we have plans to be there. I know we're going to talk about it this week and figure out what the presents will be. But I'm super excited, to be a part of that as well. And I think you've just done so much for this hobby, and I think this is just like another level of supporting that. So I look forward to seeing you here at the show. Again, always appreciate you joining us, Youthman. You are the man. And if there's anything we can do, just give us a holler. But again, come down to the Tampa Florida Audio Expo. You can meet Youthman in person here this weekend.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun.
All right, take care, man. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Michael.
Oop. Sorry. All right.
He's
well,
awesome.
We gotta do a giveaway.
Yes,
Michael's great. I mean, he just, like I said, you could not. He said he's like an introvert, but like the way that he brings people together and he's cultivated that community with his YouTube channel, it's just incredible. So
he's like us. He's
been around a long time. The whole, we all rally around him in some way, shape, or form as enthusiasts, and he's kind of like just the central hub of this, and I just love the passion and energy he brings to our hobby and our industry.
Yeah, we're all introverted extroverts, if that makes sense. I've made that comment my entire life. Like if I get in a group, I will sit back and kind of just partake, but let things happen. But when we get in front of the camera, man, it's just like it's comfort because we're all getting to talk about things that we love and geek out about. And we see a comment that came in here from Ryan Williams that initially just joined to hopefully win some stuff and has felt the community form from watching these two. So I think that's a really cool comment.
But people do love the giveaways.
They do. It's time for one.
That's right.
Yes.
So we won't disappoint. And the next giveaway is a pair of our Prime bookshelf speakers, which are actually doing the rear surround duty in the demo room here at the Florida Audio Expo. And the winner of those Prime bookshelf speakers is one Dominic Haymond. Dominic Haymond, congrats, man. You got some new bookshelf speakers going your way. All right, Ed, you've been underutilized.
Are we doing the lightning round?
We're going to do some questions. You're going to do fast and furious. And we might do a couple replays that we've talked about before, but they're coming in fresh this weekend. So I am going to do a two-part.
Furious up to 9?
What?
Fast and Furious. Is that we're going to start?
Oh, yeah, number 10, dude.
10. I know. It's getting a little long in the tooth there, but that's all right. So this is a two-part dual subwoofer question, a dual subwoofer question. The first one is, when running duals, do you always have them set at the same volume? And what would be a scenario where you wouldn't? And the second one is, tell us why you should never mix ported and sealed. So start with the same volume. You
want the subs at the same playback level, which doesn't necessarily mean they're at the same volume setting. And the reason why is they're going to have different acoustic loading in the room. So, one might be set at -17, the other one might be set at -15, but you want them level matched at the listening position.
All right. And mixing ported and seals, why is that a no-no?
Not a good idea because they have very different phase responses, especially around the tuning frequency of the ported sub. And those differences in phase response will create phase cancellation between the two subwoofers and actually reduced output and kind of a wonky combined frequency response. So that's why we don't recommend doing it.
I lied. It's a 3-part question. You have dual subs, one in the front of the room, one way in the back. Does that always mean you set the phase on one of them to 180? And at what point do you actually adjust the phase if they're that far apart?
Not necessarily 180. It depends on how long the room is, where you're sitting in the room. Really what you want to do is make sure that the two subs are in phase with each other at the listening position. And that might require you to set the phase control on the sub in the back of the room to 15, 30, 45, 100, 120 degrees. You don't know what ends up being best until you actually try it out and hopefully measure the results. But just saying 180 in the back and 0 in the front is rarely the best combination. And that's why we have a phase control instead of just a polarity switch. Both of them are offered as features on our subwoofers, but the phase control allows you that granularity so you can really get the two subwoofers phased at the listening position.
So this is a question about placement, and for those of you who don't know, corner loading, which means putting your subwoofer, basically diagonally in a corner facing out, will sometimes get you greater output. I guess the question is, why is that, Ed? And is it always a good idea? And just sort of talk about what corner loading actually does within your room to get that greater bass output.
Corner loading excites all the standing wave modes in the room, so you're going to have the most output from the subwoofer in the corner. If you move it away from the corner, you can actually set up cancellation between the subwoofer and one of the sidewalls. So if you're moving away from a corner, we always recommend that you actually take some measurements and see what the frequency response looks like. But it's always a good idea to start in the corner because, again, you're exciting every possible mode in the room, and you'll get the most output and reinforcement.
But it's not always a good idea, though, right? Sometimes it's a little boomy.
Sometimes it can sound boomy just because you're getting the most output and reinforcement. If that's the case, if you're running an AV receiver that has something like Odyssey where it can actually equalize the frequency response and knock down some of those peaks, it's actually a good thing. If you're not equalizing the subwoofer, then we do encourage you to try a couple different locations in the room and see what sounds the most linear and accurate.
Well put.
And so we have somebody here asking, and I think we all know the answer to this, but we're going to do it anyways.
I saw you guys sort of sidebar there.
Yeah, so we're looking at questions here and seeing somebody's asking which XLR cables do we recommend for subwoofers, and I think I could probably answer this one, and Ed and Nick and everybody in the community too. We have a phenomenal XLR cable in our lineup. It is the SoundPath series of cables, the XLR cables. They come in various lengths, and they're available on our site. And if you look at the reviews, they're fantastic, and a lot of our retail partners love them too.
Yeah, and they don't cost as much as your speakers and AV receivers. So, I mean, that's a plus, and they sound just as good as the ones that do. So, I mean, I think that's important. Justin asked, am I planning any more updates for my home theater? And the answer is absolutely. I want to do room treatments. And that gets to my next question for you, Ed, is, I know there's a lot of technical lead up that goes into installing room treatments, but from a very high level, how do you determine the location of them, whether you need them, how many of them, like what's a good starting point for you to go down the journey of, I want to get bass traps and room treatments, and what's that starting point really look like?
Well, the big three, the holy trinity, would be your sound, your acoustic panels, your diffusers, and your bass traps. Acoustic panels are used at primary reflection points in the room. Like, say, for example, the center channel would bounce off the ceiling and then the reflection would reach you, or the speakers would bounce off the sidewalls. So those are primary reflection points that you want to treat, so you're not hearing echoes of the speaker as it bounces off the walls. The diffusers will scatter mids and highs without absorbing the energy, so it makes the room seem a lot more spacious and bigger than it is. And then, of course, bass traps, as the name implies, typically we put those in corners. They trap energy in the room and reduce the amount of reflected bass energy in the room, which can make the bass sound cleaner and tighter. So those are the big three, and typically I'll make a recommendation to a few of the really good companies out there who offer acoustic treatments, because they've got good educational sites on their websites where you can go in and plug in your room dimensions and what you're looking for, and they'll make some really solid recommendations and say, we think your panels should go here, here, and here, and put some diffusers there and some bass traps there. I'm telling you, it can make a world of difference. An untreated room acoustically can really sound like a disaster. An echo chamber, a properly treated room, can make a okay system sound amazing.
That's great. And would you always run your room correction after installing those, or what sort of adjustments you need to make post install?
Well, you have to, because the amount of direct to reflected energy in the room is going to be significantly different, and also the amount of reflected bass energy in the room will be different. So the frequency response will be different, and also the more sophisticated auto setups look at the time domain. They look at the RT30, RT60, which is the decay profile in the room, how long it takes time, how long it takes to settle down the frequencies in the room. So all of that's going to change with room treatments. So absolutely rerun auto setup afterwards.
Larry, you got something?
Well, I think there's another one kind of on the adjustments. Anytime you add new gear, you want to make sure that you redo your settings too. So maybe you go from prime satellite to prime bookshelf. You want to make sure that you rerun your room correction at that point too. And then one of the questions that came in here from Matt Nispel is, how do we do all these adjustments, and are we doing it by ear? And just so you have an understanding of what we're doing at our shows and these venues is, we do go into a room and we use Denon and Marantz receivers at all of our events. We run Odyssey, and then after we've run Odyssey, I go through and I make adjustments just by ear on, typically it's changing the speakers from large to small, which is the first thing I always do on a receiver setup. And then I go in and I adjust the crossovers. Like in here, the Prime Pinnacle and the Ultra Center, I've got them crossed over, and the Prime bookshelves in the rear, all at 80. And I put our Prime elevations up top at 90 hertz. And then I just adjust levels to each one independently. And it's just all kind of done by ear. If I walk into a room, say one of our retail partners, and I hear a system playing, I can pick out now, because we've all been doing this long. I'm like, something's just not right. And I can go up to the receiver and I can go, oh, yep, it's the crossovers are set wrong on the speakers, or they're set to large instead of small, or maybe double bass is turned on the receiver instead of just a single LFE output. And it's kind of weird to be able to do that now, but and it also kind of makes me going to a movie theater a little more difficult. So if I go into a theater and the sound sucks, I'm really upset, because I'm like, man,
These are the professionals.
I want to go up to the room and fix their sound.
Yeah.
But
Well, Larry, we help people out all day long with questions like this and set up in their AV receiver. We try and take out the mystery of it and make it easier to understand, and get, after running setup, hey, let's drill into the manual speaker setup menu and look at speaker size and crossover and subwoofer mode and low pass for the LFE channel. All that stuff is Greek to people who aren't experts in the field, but we'll decode it and we'll tell you the changes to make, and it'll make a world of difference in how your system sounds, as you said.
So Titus asked, this is a follow-up to your phase question. Is there a way you can tell just by listening if your subwoofers are out of phase, or speakers for that matter?
That you can, if it's like grossly out of phase. So say, like using your example, you got a sub in the front, sub in the back. If you start scrolling through the phase setting on the sub in the back, which is easy with our app, by the way, you can do it on the fly, and you're just playing, you say, some music with a familiar bass line that you know really well. If you start scrolling through the phase control and all of a sudden the bass drops out and gets weaker and it sounds like the subs are fighting each other, well, they're pretty much out of phase with each other at that point. And then at a different phase setting, you're going to get a very cohesive, coherent bass presentation. It's going to sound like the two subs are in sync with each other and complementing each other, and then they're more in phase.
All right, I think one more question, and then we can get to our final giveaway. John H. asks, he has a 2.1 system. How high should I have my bookshelf speakers? This high? No. Typically, you want them to be about ear level. Your tweeters at ear level aligned.
Ask Method Man.
Well, I guess you don't have a center tweeter. So, yeah, you want them at about ear level.
Yeah.
That's about, the obvious answer, and in a seated position.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just a bookshelf listening system, put them on some 24 or 36-inch stands, typically 24.
We get a lot of is with the advent of the Atmos systems, the bed layer should be, ear level for the front stage and no more than about a foot above head level for the side surrounds and rear surrounds. And the reason why is you want to maintain that horizontal plane of immersive, and then the overhead speakers give you the 360 effect. A lot of people have a tendency to set their surrounds and surround back really high in the room, and they lose that sense of horizontal envelopment. So if you are running overhead speakers, drop down your surround backs to maybe a foot and a half above head level is
yeah. And if you are integrating a center channel, trying to keep that on that same plane as well.
Yep.
Those tweeters aligned. You don't want to have your center channel like on the floor. If you do, you want to angle it up. So don't.
Which
don't
we
have
do see that on occasion when the
they get like the door wedges and they stick it on the floor and angle it up. It's not ideal.
Okay, let's get that off the floor.
Yeah,
Do a
absolutely.
little better than that.
All right. Well, we have one more giveaway, but before we do it, I just want to say thank you first to Bart Andeer, the organizer of the awesome Florida Audio Expo. Again, SVS will be here all weekend. We're in Tampa at the Embassy Suites, room 603. Come by, hang out with Larry and I and Dan, and we'll put on some demos for you and have some fun. Thank you to Youthman and, of course, his awesome community for coming out with some of these great questions and comments today. He is a tremendous asset to our industry and just a great guy all around who puts out really educational and just phenomenal content. So check out the Youthman channel, subscribe to it, subscribe to the SVS channel too while you're at it, and we'll keep cranking things out. Our final giveaway of the evening is a 3000 micro subwoofer souped up with a tri-band wireless audio adapter, and our winner of the 3000 micro is Marcy Bergman. Marcy Bergman,
Awesome. Congratulations.
Got a sweet sub coming your way. So we are going to be off for about a month, although we could always sneak in another happy hour in between now and then. But March 16th, we'll be back with another Audiophile Happy Hour and some more great guests. Ed, thank you as always for your time. Enjoy your weekend. We will be enjoying ours in sunny Florida. I know your neck of the woods isn't quite as nice, but I'm sure you'll find some deer to go hunt down.
Getting a nice string of warm weather here. We're doing okay. Been a mild.
Nice.
Beautiful. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in as always. Happy listening, and come down to the Embassy Suites in Tampa. Hang out with us this weekend if you can.
See you later, everybody.